All right, so welcome everybody. We do apologize if you're joining us right now. We are a couple minutes behind our scheduled time, but as in so many things in life, not everything goes exactly the way you planned it. Zoom did an update last night, and for security measures, they put passwords on every single meeting. But I was under the impression that as long as you came in with a link, that you didn't have to have that. But we found out the hard way that that's not the case. So with all that being said, welcome. I am James Dunn. I'm the organizer of this Turning the Outbreak into Opportunity Facebook group. As I've shared with each of you guys on these calls is as this whole thing came down, so if this first one is this whole thing came down, we started doing the physical distancing, I prefer that term, and doing the self-quarantine and really stepping away from everybody, and people losing their jobs, just all this chaos was going on, at least in terms of what the media was portraying. I saw a huge opportunity for people. I know a lot of people were very scared about what the future holds, but to me, we never know what the future holds. And I just saw this as an amazing opportunity for so many people to step back, take a look at their lives, make sure it was on the path that they wanted it to be. And if it wasn't, now's the perfect time to make a pivot. But for them to do that, they were going to need to focus on what the opportunities were and what the possibilities were. And so what I wanted to do was create an environment, create a safe space for people to come in and be inspired every single day, have something they could focus on that was positive. It wasn't the 24-hour news channel saying everybody's dying and you should all wear masks and you should, there's certain precautions you need to take, but they were just portraying it like this is the end of the world, and it's not, so let's focus on the positivity and let's focus on what's possible in our lives over, what we thought were going to be a few weeks. Now it's looking like maybe a few months, but let's take this time to really focus on what is available to us. So what I've been doing is bringing in, as you guys have been seeing, we're bringing in coaches and speakers every single day to give you that inspiration, that motivation. And I've got another awesome one today. And before I dive into the introduction, what I want to do is share with you, number one, we are here on a live Zoom call. So if you want to join us that way, we've got the link in the Facebook group there, join in. And the password that we now have set up is yes. So just type yes, if it requires the password. If you prefer just to follow us along on the Facebook live stream, which is what we're doing now, you can also pop in your questions or comments over there. I'm going to be monitoring that on my phone. So if you happen to see me looking away, it's not because I'm ignoring anybody or anything like that, not that I'm bored. I'm checking the comments and making sure that we're seeing what you guys are saying and bringing those questions into the conversation. Because Robin, she and I were talking just a few seconds ago, and she would love this to be as interactive as possible. So any questions you guys have, feel free to toss them on there, and I'll make sure to work them into this live stream, this conversation that we've got. Also, feel free to share this. You are welcome to host this as a watch party, put it out there. This group is open to anybody and everybody. We're not trying to just hoard the information. It's not like, no, you have to, the only reason there's a password on the Zoom call is because Zoom now requires it. So it's on there. But other than that, just definitely feel free to share this with anybody and everybody. And I think I've gotten through all the housekeeping. So let me get to the formal introduction. And so today we have Dr. Robin Rise with us. She is a master coach and a psychologist, has been for over 35 plus years. And she works with elite individuals that truly want to move into their greatness and fulfillment in life. And so today I've asked her to join us, and she's going to talk about the neuropsychology of fear and how we can get into our creative mind, get out of this fear and scarcity mode and all that crazy junk. So Robin, welcome.
Hi, James, and hi, everybody who's on the call. Thank you for setting up this opportunity, James. This really is a unique time in history for us to be doing things a little bit differently and connecting with people that we normally would get to connect with. So I'm honored to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you.
And I'm sitting here at my kitchen table. I'd like to invite everybody to grab pencil and paper if you like. Something to drink. Those of you who know me will know me by my signature mug.
Holy cow.
So cheers. Cheers. Everybody stay hydrated.
Betcha. I've got a cousin that has a big old mug like that, but unfortunately he fills his with Mountain Dew every day. I'm like, oh dude, you're killing yourself.
I like ice and I like saving the planet. So I
There you
refill
go.
this every single day. Um, so I don't know about you guys, but I've been doing this personal development stuff probably my whole life, if I'm honest,
Mhm.
right? I'm one of those people that's kind of a control freak, and I'm wired pretty tight, and I believe in fixing things and achievement and working hard and driving through things. And while that's all brilliant and wonderful, it only works when you're in the right part of your brain. And I started to notice, especially a couple of weeks ago, as this um, virus news, and by the way, when I say virus now, I really mean fear, because I feel like the fear, I'm more afraid of the fear than I am of catching the actual virus. And I know that that's not true for everybody, and I don't mean to discount people who are having real life experiences with that. But for me, the virus I am working on is the virus of fear.
Mhm.
So now I've been a clinical psychologist my whole life. It feels like since I was 4 is what I always say. But I got my PhD in clinical psychology, and I've been studying at Master University. I've been through all the Tony Robbins stuff. I've been through Landmark. I've
Mhm.
been through so many programs. It's not even funny. I am constantly studying, studying under Joe Dispenza. And so
Love
it
Dr.
is
Joe.
really, for me, a profound spiritual calling to be able to understand how to make me, my apparatus, my brain work optimally.
Mhm.
So as this has progressed with this virus, I noticed that I started going back to behaviors that I probably haven't done in decades, right? That I have mastered my mind and my body. And forgive me, I'm going to say it this way. I don't know if my mother's watching. She'll be very disappointed. Um, but my rules are I want to make my mind and my body my bitch.
There you go.
so,
Yeah.
so when I started to notice that I was doing things that were old primitive behaviors, which haven't shown up in a long time, and I started waking up with what I call my double D's. So doesn't mean what you think. My double D's are dread and despair.
Mm.
And those words are very intentional for me. When I say the double D's, when I wake up with those, it is truly waking up in a feeling of panic. And dread is the feeling of anxiety or fear in uncertainty, where there's nothing to control, right? There's a foreboding sense that something could get me.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what that is or where that comes from. And despair is the feeling of hopelessness or powerlessness in the face of something uncontrollable. And there's nothing more perfect to make us afraid than a virus that we can't see,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, like, I have been working on this stuff my whole life, and yet I wake up with my double D's almost every night. And then I have to use my old tools, my old skills at understanding how the brain works to get myself out of the primitive part of my brain and into the thinking part of my brain.
Yeah.
Now, what you need to know is we are in our thinking part of our brain, and this is the best of us, 2 to 4% of the time. The rest of the time, we are operating from old patterns, habits, beliefs, systems that are running much like a minimized program on your computer. They're still running. They're still taking up energy, right? But we
Yeah.
don't pay attention to them. And now I'm noticing I need to go to all of those programs that are minimized on my computer and still running
Mhm.
and check in with them and take care of them.
Yeah.
There's something that needs to be done. Does that make sense so far,
Oh
James?
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so many things that we do subconsciously. We don't even think about it, you know. And the one that I always think of is like when you walk into a room, you instantly flip the light switch. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I've actually flipped the light switch off when I'm walking in the room because it was already on, just because you're in that habit of just reaching over and flipping the switch. But
Exactly.
yeah, that's exactly what's happening to us in our day-to-day lives, is we're just going through using this subconscious programming. Even if it makes no sense whatsoever, that's just
Right.
our habit. I walk in the room, I flip the switch.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's so much of our life is run by those unconscious programs, habits, and beliefs that some of them. So this is where the neuroscience gets really interesting to me, to start understanding things, because again, control freak, recovering for the most part. But these programs were installed in your brain starting at 11 weeks in utero, meaning in your mother's womb at 11 weeks, you started learning how you were going to survive in the world.
Mhm.
Now, I happen to believe it happens earlier than that, but there's no science that can prove that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But if these, how you're going to survive in the world, is programmed in while you're in utero. So for instance, baby foxes are programmed to have fox ways of surviving in the world,
Mhm.
right? They're predators.
Yep.
And baby rabbits are programmed to learn how to live in the rabbit world.
Mhm.
So they learn flee or hide, right? What we learn is how, in particular, and this is not fun as a mom to say this, but however your mom survived in the world is what she programmed into you,
Yeah.
right? And that is running at a level that is below the level of thought.
Mhm.
Now, what you need to know is the survival part of our brain, and I don't know if I should go into all my little speeches. Some people are like, if you do this to me one more time, Robin.
Just dive into it, because this, I mean, you and I did not know each other prior to literally, I mean, this is our very first time actually having a
It is.
conversation. So
It
you
is.
are new to my audience, and I'm
But
sure there's going to be some things that you say that they've heard before, but I'm a big believer that the more times you hear it, the deeper it sinks in. And even if you hear the exact same thing from somebody different,
mhm,
it can open up a whole new world to you. So dive
mhm.
in.
Okay, so this is from psychoneuroimmunology. And Daniel Siegel, Dr. Daniel Siegel. So I'm not trying to name drop. I just want to give people resources that you can go to if you really want to learn some of these things, which for me is like my fire. If I could learn new things every day, I'd be golden, right?
Yeah.
So the most primitive part of your brain, the lizard part of your brain, operates primarily to keep you safe. Fight, flight, fright, and fawn are the ways that you learn how you're going to survive in the world. And like I already said, your mother, bless her heart, and right, keeping
Yep.
you safe in her way,
Yep.
taught you how you were going to survive in the world.
Yeah.
And that program, that system, the survival system, the autonomic nervous system, which has a gas pedal and a brake pedal, that system operates 800 times faster than a thought.
Mm.
800. So by the time you're thinking about it, you are now too late.
It's already done.
You are
It's
too
over
late.
with. Yeah.
Right, right. So what you need to know, and one of the pieces of verbiage that I use a lot is what's called an emotional hijacking. So when I'm in my double D's,
Mhm.
dread and despair, I know I'm in an emotional hijacking.
Yeah.
In particular, because I'm sleeping. I am sleeping, and I can wake up with these feelings and go, nothing happened,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No idea where this comes from inside of me. And this can happen at any time during your day or night, because your unconscious, or your brain, we'll say it that way, your brain is processing 400 billion bits of information per second.
Yeah.
Right? So you're not going to be able to sort out all those different things. That's why you have all these programs that are managing things, turning on the lights when you walk into a room,
Mhm.
right? Doesn't it? You don't even have to think about it. You don't have to think about how to walk or talk, but at one point in your life you had to,
Yeah.
right? So once you learn something, that all gets put in these patterns that organizes your brain. So when you're in this, the autonomic nervous system, the lizard brain, the 800 times faster than you can think, you're not going to be able to catch what set you off, what created this emotional hijacking. So not to date myself, and this really is, that means I'm dating myself, right? When Mike Tyson fought Evander Holyfield and bit off his ear.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of the language about an emotional hijacking. Because you could watch this finely tuned machine, both of them, both gentlemen, right? And apparently Evander did something that reminded Mike Tyson of something his older sister used to do to him. He went totally blank, right? And went right into not calculated fight mode, but survival fight mode.
Yeah. And
did what he had to do to feel like he survived.
Yeah. Yeah. So that reflex kicked in.
It is. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. Brilliant word, James. Yeah. Because this really is instinctual. So what you need to know happens inside of your brain and body when you go into an emotional hijacking is you are automatically given 90 seconds, a minute and a half of chemicals that your body will use to fight, flee, play dead, or blend into the scenery, right? So your body and brain are going to do that automatically. There's no thinking. You're just in it. A minute and a half feels like nothing, but it's actually feels like an eternity when you are not actually fighting, fleeing, or playing dead.
Yeah.
So a minute and a half, they used to say with anger management, you had to count to 10.
Yeah.
Right. And the answer is, no, you need to count to 100.
Yeah.
Right. And most people won't. So when you're triggered, when you're in an emotional hijacking, you need to give yourself at least 90 seconds to start to get a grip on what's going on. And once that gets triggered, you have all of those chemicals that start 2,300 different processes in your brain and body that give you the energy you need to fight, flee, play dead, or blend in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're in it, when you're in that 2,300 things, as soon as you start thinking, and we'll talk about the different parts of your brain if we need to, but when you start thinking like, oh my God, what was that? Right? Which is my first thing to do. Right? I'm like, I don't know. What am I feeling? Where's the danger? What's going on? And there's no danger that I can see.
Yeah.
I now gave myself 90 more seconds of chemicals. And 90 seconds of chemicals triggered by who knows what, right? Of the 400 billion bits, something entered your brain, some memory, some thoughts, some feelings, some sense, felt sense, something triggered this cascade of emotions, cascade of chemicals, 90 seconds. And then I'm like, oh my God, I call it having a seizure. Like, right. I suck all the air out of the room, like, right.
Yeah.
So now I've got 90 more seconds of chemicals layered on top of the remaining 89 seconds of chemicals that are already going on. And the more I keep doing the seizure thing, the sucking all the air out of the room, the trying to figure out what's wrong, the longer this lasts. So the goal is, I know lots of people here are Tony people, I think, because I know we have some of those.
I know I am, so you betcha.
I know, that's why I feel like I know you, James.
Yeah. No, I've been to Date with Destiny, UPW 5 times. So yeah, I'm all about Tony Robbins. I love him. And so a lot of the people that follow me, they hear Tony Robbins stuff all the time. So if they're not Tony Robbins fans yet, they're going to be by the time this is all over and done with. Yes.
Because, oh my God, I can't say enough, right? Because I'm a girl who tries everything. And I always recommend the single best thing is the immersion work that you can do with Tony Robbins. So, and I don't get paid for any of that.
Yeah. No, I went back and volunteered. I crewed one of the events, just because I loved it so much. I wanted to give back to that community,
I was going to cruise San Jose.
What's that?
I was going to cruise San Jose.
Oh, nice.
But instead I'm at my kitchen table with y'all.
Well, at least it worked out. You know, if you couldn't be there, this is the second best place to be.
It is. It is. Anyway, so when you're in this process of what Tony Robbins would say is, if you're in your head, you're dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, a more refined way of saying that is when you're not in the left prefrontal cerebral cortex, you're dead.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're trying to do is to get you out of the survival mode, out of the right prefrontal cerebral cortex, which I'm going to call the Frankenstein part of your brain.
Okay.
Because the Frankenstein part of your brain, if you remember the story of Frankenstein, he gets an abnormal brain put into his skull and reacts based on that abnormal brain.
Yeah.
Right? So that brain is designed to look for patterns, look for sensations, beliefs that are familiar to that brain, the ways it's used to functioning. So the Frankenstein brain can go in circles. I call it circling the drain. Like, what about this? What about this? And you start thinking the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
And you find yourself doing the same things over and over and over again. And your strategies are always the same. But it feels rewarding because it's comfortable.
Mm.
It's super comfortable. It's what you're used to doing, right? So I'm a fix-it girl.
Yeah.
In our house, we call it FITFO, which stands for figure it the F out.
Yeah.
Right? So we FITFO everything, except that if I'm in the wrong part of my brain, I can't think of anything new. Mm-hmm. I can only think of what has already been done.
Yeah.
So since I've been waking up with the double Ds, and with my clients, I'm talking about the same things. They're all like, oh my God, I find myself reverting back to very old coping strategies and behaviors.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, we're all in our comfortable, not particularly happy, but comfortable, safe systems of being.
Yeah.
Well,
like I say, yeah, it's going back to those, reverting back to those old habits and those old patterns, because we're in so much chaos right now. We don't know what's going to happen in the world. Like we talked about at the beginning, we don't know what's going on. So let's revert back to those things that are simple, that are easy, that don't make us think.
Yes.
So that way we can feel comfortable.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Even though, like I say, we're locked in our houses, so we're not comfortable, but it's something, these habits and these patterns that we at least feel like, okay, I know what to expect in this little box.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is my safety.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So what we're trying to do now is to get ourselves back to a place of knowing that we have the power to be safe. We have the power to create our own sanity. And we have the power to create all the possibilities and anything in our life that we want to. But we have to get into that right part of our brain and get out of our head in the survival mechanisms that are really running everything. And again, 95% of the time, that's what we're doing.
Yeah. So
I've put together strategies over all of these years that I use. And so these are the things that are about getting into your body and out of thinking, out of the Frankenstein part of your brain. Now, I'll tell you the hardest part of this is your brain's not going to want to do it.
It's going to fight me? What? No.
It's going to fight you. It's going to fight. I know. It's shocking.
Yeah.
Right? Like, to me, I'm like, wow, the amount of energy and effort I spend to stay circling the drain is exhausting.
And it's crazy. But like you say, we do it because it's comfortable. It's because we are afraid of change. We're afraid of something different.
Right.
But once you've gone through some of the work like you and I have, we can see that, yeah, you get these old habits over, and yeah, they're comfortable, but are they serving me well? Are they getting me to where I want to go?
Right.
And if not, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable to change it, but that's so much better than being stuck in that loop, just doing the same shit over and over and over again.
For sure. And those of us who are achievers, right,
Mm-hmm.
which is we don't like to admit that we're afraid. We don't like to admit vulnerabilities. We don't like to admit that we don't know what to do. So we, more than any other people, kind of double down on our old strategies, and we get to work and we start planning and we're doing things and all that stuff. But when you're dealing with the primitive part of your brain, it wins every single time.
Yeah.
So we've got these 90 seconds of chemicals, and I'm going to give you the very first thing I learned. And I will say this, I made it up because I used to be fat, and went to see a psychologist when I was in my early 20s. And I had studied everything there was to know about nutrition and food and exercise, and half the time I did it and half the time I didn't, like healthy and unhealthy things for a long time. Went to see the therapist and she said, well, honey, you just need to exercise more and eat less. And I was like, yeah.
Wow.
You're
What?
right,
This is groundbreaking news. Who would have thought?
I know.
My gosh.
I know. So I went back and I sat in my car and I was like, well, one, she called me honey. So I'm like, oh, this is not going to be a good match. And I think she called me stupid, but I know she didn't mean to. And I'm so grateful for her to have said that. But I sat in my car and I was like, who is at battle me inside of my own head? Because I know how to exercise and eat less, exercise more and eat less. I know. I don't do it, and then I get mad at myself, and then I eat more, and then I get mad at myself, and I get fatter and fatter and fatter.
Yeah.
So this started with, I just wanted to stop eating chocolate chip cookie dough. I just wanted to stop eating chocolate chip cookie dough. So here's what I did, and I brought some props, if that's okay.
Awesome, yeah.
I brought props. So back in the day, and this is back in the 80s, which is why I have so many years of experience under my belt. So I sat in my disco swinger, the car I was in, and I was like, okay, Robin, as soon as you notice that you're thinking about making chocolate chip cookie dough, eating chocolate chip cookie dough, freezing, anything that has to do with that, the moment my brain becomes aware of it, which I will tell you, took a long time to even be aware of it. It was such an automatic pattern in my brain, right? Yeah. And to this day, my kids have said, Mom, how come we only get chocolate chip cookies when you're upset? And I'm like, oh, interesting pattern to have noticed, children, right? It's like the fact that it made it to cookies, it's a miracle, because normally it's the dough, right? So whenever I noticed myself thinking about eating chocolate chip cookie dough, I put in a commercial break. And I decided, I made this negotiation in my brain, like, okay, so you are eating chocolate chip cookie dough, thinking about chocolate chip cookie dough, and you don't want to be. You don't want to be. Something has taken over. You're doing this. You know it's not what you need to do. What negotiation can we put in place that says you can do whatever you want to with the chocolate chip cookie dough after a commercial break?
Yeah.
So I remember thinking 30 minutes. And one part of my brain was like, you can't last like a minute. What are you talking about? Right?
Yeah.
So I decided on 5 minutes.
Okay.
So I started this, what I call my 5-minute rule. I don't know if any of you guys know Mel Robbins, but she has the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5-second rule. Yeah. Which is also, she and I are from the same generation, so I think we had the same basic idea, which is a countdown to launch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do it. Yeah. So as soon as I noticed I was in my unconscious chocolate chip cookie dough part of my brain, I would get a timer and set it for 5 minutes. And here's what you have to do in that 5 minutes. So most of you will know what a meditative pose looks like. You want to block out as much stimuli as you possibly can. So your eyes are generally closed. You can do it in the bathroom. I've done it in closets.
Where nobody can see you.
Nobody can see me. I've also done it in meetings when I was triggered, right?
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an expert level skill, man, when you can be in an upsetting meeting and do your 5-minute rule. Right? They're like, oh, Robin got quiet. Like, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
So 5 minutes. And in that 5 minutes, your job is to go into your body and notice what the sensations are that are going on in your body. Now, the reason you want to go into your body is because your brain is searching for what's wrong and fix it. What's wrong and fix it. So your brain wants something to do. That's what your brain is great at, solving problems. It just has to be a problem you can solve. When the problem is what's so scary, right? There's a million answers.
Yeah.
Right? So you're giving your brain a task, and you're going to say, if you can, in the most ideal situation, out loud, sensation, and then you say what it is, and location, and where it is. So I'm sitting in a closet, going sensation. For me, I don't know, years, decades, the only sensation I noticed was a heaviness in my chest. There's a reason for that, right, in physiology, which we could talk about if we want to, but for me, it centers always right here. It's heavy, does it, right? And you give it as much of a description as you can. So your brain is trying to search for, how do I solve the problem of what am I feeling in my body and where is it?
Yeah.
So for 5 minutes, so it used to be, I had one of those old kitchen timers, because again, 80s. But now you can get these things on Amazon.
Yeah. Nice little hourglass.
5-minute tea timer.
Yeah.
So now everybody, yeah, it's for 5 minutes. It's for tea. So for 5 minutes, I turn this over. I've got these everywhere. I had to get ones with the box around them because I knock them off and break them. So I set my timer, and for 5 minutes, it's sensation, location, sensation, location. Now, what will happen at the end of 5 minutes is you will be calmer because your brain has solved a problem. And it's like, sweet, I have control.
Yeah.
Right? I have control again. And then, oh, and by the way, stand timer is good because it doesn't have like a bell at the end of it or a sound at the end of it. So if you're feeling like amazing and kind of floaty and you love being in meditation, being startled by a bell.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of shocks your system a little bit.
Yeah. So this is old, this is a much kinder, gentler version of my 5-minute rule.
There you go.
So I look, has it been 5 minutes? No, keep going. If it has, right, the rule at the end of the 5-minute rule is you can do whatever the hell you want. So if I want to make and eat chocolate chip cookie dough still, I do. Now, chances are I don't, because it was an unconscious, unhealthy pattern that was designed to make me feel safe, but actually made me feel like crap about myself.
Yeah.
So that simple, I can tell you 5 minutes with such accuracy now, James. There have been days that felt like that's all I'm doing is my 5-minute rule.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, just get back into your brain. But it gives you access to the right, now I've got the right prefrontal cerebral cortex instead of the Frankenstein part of your brain.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking for. So this is like step one. Now, if you want to do some advanced work, as soon as you notice that you feel calm, you're going to keep with you some kind of scent that you like. Now, the reason for a scent is because smell bypasses more of your cerebral cortex and goes directly to your emotional centers. It's the fastest way to feel good. So as soon as you notice you feel good, so mine used to be grapefruit and I've switched to lemon. Turns out lemon and essential oils is the quickest to happiness.
Nice.
But you can use whatever you want. I knew one person that wanted tomato plant smell.
Okay.
Yeah, she found it.
Okay.
That's crazy. But if you think about it, right, there's certain smells take you back to Thanksgiving or where you used to live, or
To this day, when I smell cinnamon, like, pretty common smell, I go back to 7th grade. There was a girl I had a crush on. They gave me a cinnamon lifesaver. And it was just like, one was like, oh my God, she gave me a lifesaver, And so still to this day, when I smell cinnamon, that's that, for that fraction of a second, that's the first thing I think of. Yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Yes. So we're working with how our brain naturally learns things and encodes things.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as you know what it feels like to feel calm, you put the scent under your nose.
Nice.
Right? And if you do that every time, and this, by the way, is anytime you feel amazing. So it has to be something portable.
Mm-hmm.
You're training your brain that when you smell this, you're going to feel amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes sense. Yeah.
So
that's so good.
So this is such an important life hack, I'm telling you, right? To get to the state, because as Tony talks about, everything is about state management.
Yeah.
Right? But you have to be past the primitive survival part of your brain first.
Yeah. Well, you got to get that pattern interrupt. Like say when you have that, you feel that pull to get that chocolate chip cookie dough. And I know Danielle, she's on here watching, and she was talking about cherry turnovers were her thing that she would always like, that's what she would always run to. And yeah, when you get stuck in that loop, like say your body kind of takes over and like, you're not going to be satisfied until you get that. But if you can put in that pattern interrupt somewhere. So if that's meditation, and I know for me, I have a hard time trying to do the calmness side of it. So I'll put on some music or something, just something where I'm shaking my body to get that move, like say that energy from where it's trying to sit at. But yeah, once you can work in that pattern interrupt, and like I said, in that smell, that's a great anchor, to put it there. And so that will trigger you just like me. Like if I smell cinnamon, I think cinnamon lifesaver, 7th grade.
Absolutely.
Boom. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's perfect, because that's all we're trying to do is find the easiest, fastest ways that you can start anchoring in. It's exactly what it's called, a neural anchor.
Yeah.
To now, instead of the chocolate chip cookie dough being a negative thing, it becomes my trigger for, oh, I get to feel good.
Yeah.
I get to feel good. So that in and of itself is the hardest thing to remember to do, but the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
So if a couple more I call them life hacks. They call them life hacks, right?
Yeah.
God, I actually wrote down like 1 million of them. And we don't have time for 1 million. We don't have time for 1 million. But I'm going to give you 2 more things that you can do in a pinch.
Awesome.
One is when you're circling the drain, right? You're going to imagine that your head is like a bowling ball on a little golf tee pivot, right? And you're going to roll your head like it's a second hand all the way around and make it last 1 minute. Oh, it really feels good when you make it last a minute. Those of us who are hurry, hurry, hurry people, you'll be surprised if you start timing yourself like, oh, that was really only 20 seconds. Right?
Yeah.
Right? So this takes 2 minutes, 1 minute one way, 1 minute the other way.
Okay.
And you can do that anywhere. Again, in the bathroom, you can do that anywhere. What that does is it informs your brain and body through the vagus nerve and the sensory and motor neurons that are running up and down it to scan for what's wrong and relax it. Scan for what's wrong and relax it.
Yeah.
So that's a quick 2 minute when you're freaking out. 2 minutes to do that. Another thing is to yawn on purpose 10 times. Right? So we used to think, or I was taught, that yawning was a sign of disrespect. And it actually turns out to be a sign of your brain wants more oxygen so that you can stay engaged. So if you intentionally yawn 10 times, it takes longer than 2 minutes for me, but if you can intentionally yawn, you are now reoxygenating your cerebral spinal fluid, which will make your brain more alert, and you'll be more engaged in the moment as opposed to shutting down.
Nice. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, just getting more of that oxygen in there.
Yeah. So I'll stop now and I'll let you.
No. I think this has been great. I love it. You've been giving us a lot of great tips here on how to, like I say, just, more than anything, just interrupt that pattern and step outside of it, because that's what happens so much. Like I say, when we get in that fight or flight mode, it's just, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And really, once you just stop and take a second to really survey what's going on around you, there's, we all, roll back to the saber-toothed tiger and all that,
Yep.
we don't have any danger like that. It's all
Right.
these things that we're just triggering in our mind. We're bringing up these old past fears and thoughts and this conditioning, but the reality is we're not in real danger.
Right. Right.
None of it
Right.
is.
Right.
And that's
Right.
where I've almost had to back up a little bit, not a lot, but back up a little bit in terms of my optimism and what I'm putting out there, because I can see that there's so many people right now that are still in that fight or flight mode. So I'm over here saying, this is amazing, this is wonderful, this is the greatest things ever fucking happened in your life. And they're all like, oh my God, I'm so scared. It's like, okay, let me tone it down just a little, not too much, because I still have that belief, but I need to help them see that, okay, you're number one, let's stop and look, because you're going to survive.
Right.
Trust me, you're going to survive. This is not the worst thing that's ever happened in your life. I shouldn't say not everybody's going to survive, but the vast, vast, vast majority of us all are going to survive. And so stop feeding off the media frenzy, because I'm just even watching or reading something today, like, yeah, there's like tens of thousands of people who have died across the world, because of this virus, but it's exponentially higher the people that have died from just the common flu or all these other things. And so just breathe. It's going to be okay.
Well, right. And the quick thing to add to that, James, is that if you take 6 deep breaths, it takes 6 breaths to get enough air into your lungs, the lower lobes of your lungs, to provide enough oxygen. And most people don't breathe.
Yeah.
You breathe into your chest first, then your belly, and then draw it up to your head, hold it, and let it go 6 times. Which feels weird. There's times like my shoulders go up. I'm like, God, you're just breathing. Like, no, right. Chest, stomach, head, hold it, release. 6 times. That helps to release that, because most of us aren't breathing out there. It feels so oppressive because the virus is really the fear.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just all of us being locked up in our house and being stuck. And if you're watching the news, and again, you don't want to stay informed, you do want to stay informed, but when you see that over and over and over again, it's not anything new. It's that same piece of information being fed to you again and again and again. And so you're letting it stack on top of it, thinking it's more and more. It's like, no, it's the same damn thing.
Absolutely.
Just relax.
Right. Right. And as you know, James, the worst thing you can say to a woman is to tell her to relax or calm down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's not good.
Works better for guys.
Yeah. So awesome. Well, this has been amazing. And I don't see any questions over here. A lot of people over here that are watching and enjoying this. But so I think we'll put a cap on it right there.
Okay. Perfect.
But this has been so great. I've really enjoyed having you on here today, and I'm glad we got to connect. And
me too.
So before we wrap this up, I definitely want to tell everybody, please, put it in the comments section below. Let us know, what your biggest takeaways were, if there's anything that you're going to implement into your life, any changes that you're going to make. But then also, Robin, before we go, let people know how they can find you, obviously on Facebook. I got you linked up here in the video, but if, you're on Instagram or anywhere else, website, anything like that.
Yep, you can find me on Dr. Robin Rise. I'm in the process of redoing my entire website because I made a huge change of moving from a practice in Colorado to starting something new here in California.
Yay.
Love being a beach girl. But I always give out a 15-minute free consultation because I consider it an honor and a privilege to be more like a concierge type of a coach as opposed to a cookie cutter coach. And I have so many tools. I didn't even talk about half of them. You guys will love this one, Santa. but depending on who you are, because again, all of us have our own different wiring, there's certain recipes that work better for some people than others. So I'm happy to talk to anybody and give as much information as I can. And anybody who wants to work with me can do that too.
Awesome. Beautiful. Well, Robin, again, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. And I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your gifts with the world today. And I hope you have an awesome and amazing day.
You too. You're awesome.
All right. Everybody, you guys take care, and we'll see you again tomorrow.